And welcome to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Jon Lawton and Chris Massenberg of Open Air Advisors. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back.
It's great to be back with you. And Jon, how are you?
Doing really well. Thank you.
Good. It's so good to have you both in the studio today because I know that you've been so extremely busy. You're having one consultation after the next with the show being so popular and viewers calling in to book that time with you. So I should ask you right out of the gate, Jon, what are people concerned about right now? What are they coming in? What are they talking about?
First off, we are getting a lot of calls right now, and a lot of the calls that we're talking to folks about, there's been a lot of volatility in the market today, a lot of volatility, and it's been, ups and downs. We've seen inflation. We've seen the mortgage rates go from 3% to above 4% in the last few weeks. Ukraine, Russia, all of these things, oil prices going up, all of these things are big concerns to our clients, and they affect them, right? I mean,
Sure.
the price of housing and what that looks like. We have a lot of folks who, in fact, I had someone in my office the other day, and their goal a couple of years ago was to downsize their house. So they had started their family, bought the big house, the 4-bedroom to be able to fit all of the kids and the family and that sort of thing. And their idea was, well, now that we've retired, we're going to sell that property and then we're going to downsize to another home. What's the problem? Right now, how do you downsize? What do you go to?
Exactly.
We're in the DFW market and
there's nothing.
There's just not a lot of options out there. And now we're seeing interest rates go up. Well, interest rates, that affects the payment and the income or that portion of your budget that's going to be dedicated to that mortgage payment on a month-by-month basis. Or if they're fortunate to be able to pay fully cash for the property, these folks aren't. They will have to do a mortgage, and that'll be a part of our budget. But as interest rates go up, that means they can afford less and less and less of a property.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of things out there that are, that are scary for a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, anything that you want to chime in that's a little bit different from what Jon just shared?
Yeah, just to add on that, I mean, with everything that's going on, like you said, the volatility in the market, the high rising costs of inflation and services and goods, so that grocery bill is bigger than ever. If you're trying to trade in a car right now, good luck finding a new vehicle. There's a big shortage on chips. A lot of the manufacturers are having problems putting these new cars together, getting them out to market. But at the same point, if you're trying to trade in a used vehicle, you're going to get higher price on that than ever because they're willing to pay more for those used vehicles. But to Jon's point, it's just like a house. If you're looking to buy a new one, you got to sell that old one at that high price and go find that new one at that even higher price in some cases. And like he said, we're in the DFW area, and that market is so competitive out there right now as far as the housing market. But to answer your question, now more than ever, these are the times that my clients hire me for.
Yeah.
So when we have all these worries and all these concerns and all these geopolitical events, all of these inflation events, all of these concerns that keep us up at night, that's when we need to sit down and go through the numbers, go through the plan, make sure everything's on track, and let's tackle those worries one time, one at a time. Like Grandpa always used to say, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So I've never actually ate an elephant, but that's how you usually tackle them, I'm told. So that's what you want to do is one piece at a time. You want to tackle those worries so that when you put your head on that pillow at night, you fall right asleep. That's what you hire us for at Open Air Advisors. As fiduciaries, we want to have your best interests in mind, and so we can settle all those worries so you can sleep sound at night.
And that's really what it comes down to, Chris. So, Jon, let's talk a little bit more in depth about why it's important for someone, especially approaching the retirement years, to work with someone who is a fiduciary. Well,
sure. Just like Chris is talking about, all of these headline risks that are in the market today, if you don't have a plan or most folks have saved their entire lives and they've come up with a number, they've come up with an amount of money that they've saved. And now it's time for them to look at that amount of money and turn it into a monthly income stream. There's a lot of pieces that come into that, or a lot of ingredients to that income stream. Part of it's their Social Security. Maybe they're fortunate enough to have a pension. Maybe they've got an annuity like a pension that they're going to be able to turn on. But then it's learning how to turn income on from a portfolio and doing it in a way that will last them a lifetime.
Yeah.
One of the benefits that we give our clients every single day is the confidence to know, hey, you can retire. Nothing gives me more satisfaction in my life or my job to be able to tell someone, you know what, it's going to be okay. We have contingencies for this. We have a plan for this. You're going to be okay. You're going to be able to retire. It's going to work.
Yeah.
And we have the software and the tools to be able to do that for some folks. So
yeah, we
Absolutely.
can make this work is a big feeling, and to John's point and the point I was trying to make earlier, it's just having that sound advice so that you know you're on the right track, and then we can make adjustments along the way if we need to.
Absolutely. And Chris, if someone is watching for the very first time today and they wonder what the experience feels like to come into Open Air Advisors, let's talk about what that first appointment looks like.
Yeah, so if this is your first time, thanks for watching. Hope we're going to give you some good information. If you decide you want to come in and sit down with us, that process is very painless. We try to make it as painless as possible. And really, that first meeting, we want to get to know you. What's important to you? What your future goals? What your retirement might look like? What keeps you up at night? What are those worries? What do we have to tackle so that, like I said earlier, when you lay your head down on that pillow, you go right to sleep? So most of the time you'll come into our office, you'll get to meet some of the staff and our advisors as well, and we'll sit down and we'll go through your current plan if you have one. And if you don't, that's okay too. We can help you put one together. And then once we go through all of the information, we'll get back together and we'll go over that plan in detail and make sure that we are on the same page and we've tackled all those concerns and needs. And there's no cost or obligation to do that. For anyone who wants one of these plans, we're happy to set those up for you. We call them our Clearpath retirement plans. There's no cost or obligation, so for the first 10 people who call in and want to get one of these plans, that number that you can call is 844-333-6059, and we'd be happy to set that up for you.
So it's a very conversational first meeting, very comfortable and just relaxing.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Any documents that people need to bring in with them, John?
Yeah, and basically, the components of your plan. So most folks have saved in some sort of a retirement plan, like a 401k. So understanding the holdings. So a lot of folks will tell me, well, I have this amount in my 401k. Well, what I'd like to do is a deep dive into that 401k. So I want to know what actual holdings you have. If you're doing this yourself, what stocks or bonds or mutual funds, ETFs, what are you buying? So that statement will provide all the information. When we go through taxes and we go through that really in-deep dive, we might need to know the cost basis on some position you bought 30 years ago. I'm going to be able to find that on the statement. There's things on there that I might be able to find that you're not aware of. Next, I'm going to need to know the holdings and the ticker symbols for those, because we'll go and do a deep dive into each one of those funds to know the expenses that you're paying. There's a lot of hidden costs in a lot of the things that we buy. We're going to pull that out and give you a clear picture as far as exactly what you're paying, the tax implications to what you're doing, all with the goal of showing you what kind of an income stream you can have. And we're going to coordinate that with all of the different factors that are inside your plan. So statements for the 401k, any accounts that you have, a Social Security statement, knowing exactly how much Social Security is going to be, any pension statements that you have, if you've got insurance policies, those are great. We talk about interest rates and where they are. There's a lot of life insurance plans that really need to be reviewed today, because if there's a cash value component or an investment component to that life insurance, it may not be keeping up. It may, if they said 20 years ago it needs to have a 7% interest rate to stay in force, well, today rates, we're coming off zero, but we're still really at zero, right? They may not be able to survive, and there's a lot we can do to go in there and fix those accounts. So looking at all of those statements, doing a deep dive into them, I've never had someone come away from one of those appointments and we not know more about their investments than they started with.
Yeah.
But we want to know your hopes and dreams, your level of risk. We'll do a deep dive into your level of risk. Right now, it's a scary world. Inflation, Russia, Ukraine. There's a lot going on right now. And when we understand, not only, most folks say, I want to be a moderate. I don't want to be growth anymore. I don't want to be aggressive anymore. I want to be moderate. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It means I want all the growth and none of the risk, right?
Well, yeah, and wouldn't that be nice? Is that perfect account?
Yeah.
But really doing a deep dive there and talking about different scenarios, so we really understand what makes Cynthia stay up at night.
Yeah.
So we can design a portfolio around that so you feel confident and empowered to be able to say that last day, hey, I'm going into work and this is going to be my last day of work. That's what we want for everybody.
I love that. Well, gentlemen, this is the perfect time for us to open up the phone lines. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's exactly.
All right. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 844-333-6059. We know you have a lot of questions about how to plan your perfect retirement. Jon and Chris have the answers for you. All you have to do is call in today. That number is 844-333-6059. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but when we come back, I have so much more with Jon and Chris about how to plan your perfect retirement. Stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
And welcome back to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Jon Lawton and Chris Massenberg of Open Air Advisors. Gentlemen, a wonderful show we're having today, talking about the importance of planning properly for retirement. And we talked about the experience of what it feels like when someone comes into Open Air Advisors. I want to dive in a little bit further, Jon. Let's talk about the investment philosophy process. Can we talk about how that ties in with Open Air Advisors?
Sure, and a lot of folks don't have a lot of experience with this, and most, or let me say this: the experience that you've had is usually, from what I've seen, is your 401k. That's kind of your first deep dive or your first exposure to choosing your own investments. And for everyone, that experience is a little different. And it really is dependent on the 401k that you are starting out with. And so, you know, today we review plans on a regular basis. I had someone from our show call in the other day, and their investment plan was, their entire 401k was in a life cycle fund or a target date fund. The way these work is you determine a date that you want to retire. So it'd be like the 2025 fund or the 2040 fund if you're much younger. So if I'm younger and I'm going to retire at 2040, I'm going to choose the 2040 fund.
Okay.
And the idea of these investments is slowly over time, they're ticking to become more and more conservative as you get through time. That sounds great, right?
Right.
Set it and forget it. That sounds like a great approach.
Yep.
Well, how are they doing that? How are they becoming more and more conservative? Buying more bonds. Well, what have we learned over the last, few weeks? Interest rates are going up. Well, interest rates going up, how does that affect the bonds that you're buying? How is that, what is the impact to you? We have a lot of folks, and probably a lot of folks watching the show today, that are trying to do the right things. They may be doing this themselves. They may have an advisor at one of those big box banks. And most of the time when you see the big box banks, what we see is a 60-40 portfolio. 60% in stocks, 40% in fixed income or bonds like we're talking about. So you're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to put your money more and more into conservative things because you want to be safer because you're closer to your retirement. Well, guess what? You're putting your money into things that are interest rate sensitive. So as interest rates go up, it's like a teeter-totter. Remember the teeter-totter on the playground?
Yes.
As interest rates go up, what happens to those bonds?
They go down.
They go down. And so
Yeah.
people are trying to do the right things, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that could potentially get hurt. What we do is use independent institutional money managers, and some of the best in the business, some of the best, biggest banks in the world. We are fiduciary advisors, and we're not beholden to any one plan. We use customized portfolios, and so that's the other thing that we see. There are certain places, and I'm not going to mention them here, but I can see the title on the statement, and I can pretty much tell you what that investment's going to be. I know what the ETFs or mutual funds that those guys use, and every time it's going to be pretty much a cookie cutter approach, something maybe a little bit different, but it's going to be pretty much the same thing in every person's plan, maybe just a little bit, a few changes here or there. We don't do that. We put a customized plan together for everyone that comes in, tailored to you, your level of risk, and what you're trying to accomplish. Again, fixed income can be a scary place right now. As just like we talked about, interest rates going up. That if things are interest rate sensitive, you might have too much interest rate risk into your plan. You're trying to avoid the market risk. What you did is you just opened yourself up to interest rate risk. So we're going to use alternatives. We're going to use other investment vehicles to be able to solve that problem for us, to be able to maintain your safety, because at the end of the day, that's what we have to accomplish, right? We have to accomplish a portfolio that's going to be tailored to your level of risk, but isn't so interest rate sensitive.
Sure, that makes sense. So basically what it's coming down to, Chris, is really taking a look at what someone's goals and dreams are and designing something that's going to well suit their needs, no matter where they are in retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. So to Jon's point, Jon and I both come from, we started our careers in the banking world, and it was very much, if you want an investment, there's A, B, C, and D options, and which one do you want to buy? And you're going to have a mutual fund, and that mutual fund is going to have a set target, and that's kind of what everybody got. Well, we both realized very early on in our careers that wasn't necessarily right for everyone. And so taking a more customized, tailored approach and being a fiduciary advisor, we're able to work with clients on a one-on-one basis, sit down and really dig into what their goals are, what their dreams and what their aspirations are in retirement, and build a true customized plan to fit all of those goals. And it may not be the same. Jon's plan doesn't look like my plan, and it won't look like your plan, because our goals are all different. And I've mentioned before, we don't necessarily care what tool we use. We just want to accomplish that goal. So it's, again, very tailored, very customized, as long as we're hitting the targets that you have with your retirement plan. So that's kind of the ultimate focus, and that's kind of the difference between open air advisors as fiduciaries versus some big box retail. You might just end up getting stuck in one of those predetermined plans.
Okay, perfect. Jon, I have to ask you a question. Once you design a plan for someone, how often do you reevaluate that plan to make sure that it's still working? Let's say perhaps people are heavily invested in Peloton right now.
Oh, man.
Okay,
yeah.
So how often do you relook at something to make sure that, okay, we're on the right track here?
So there's you're asking kind of two different questions.
I am.
And one question is the plan, and one is the investments. Investments, that's pretty much a daily for me. I know Chris, our investment committee meets on a quarterly basis, but we're looking at those portfolios on a day in and day out basis.
Okay.
You mentioned Peloton, which is a fun one, right? Because that one was really, really popular at the beginning of the pandemic. You couldn't go anywhere, so bring the bicycle, bring out the workout equipment home, and wow, you saw that stock soar. Now that we're opening up again, you're not doing so well. There's a lot of names like that, the Teledocs, the Zooms, everything that helped you stay at home and be effective. So those were really great trades earlier on in the pandemic. Probably not, those were trades. Maybe they're not longer term investments that we want to be in right now.
Okay.
And now maybe we're shifting to more of the reopening trades. So we're seeing the commodities doing really well, oil, and unfortunately that's really tied to this Ukraine-Russia thing.
Sure.
But we are seeing oil do really well. That's a good thing in the market. Unfortunately, that's not such a good thing as we are
at the gas pump.
At the gas pump, yeah. But we are in Texas, and there's a lot of folks. That's a big industry for us. So that's one that we see being really beneficial to a lot of our clients and our friends who work in that industry.
Helps them out in West Texas for sure.
It definitely helps them out in West Texas and Houston and Dallas and really everywhere. But we are starting to see those come back.
Yeah, and
Sure,
just to
sure.
add to that, to your question, how often do we look at that?
Yeah.
I mean, ongoing, as much
Okay.
as needed, daily, weekly, monthly. As things change, the plan needs to be reevaluated often.
Okay.
We don't go exercise one time and we're fit for life. That's not how that works. That's not how your plans work in retirement, because things change. And when we put these plans together, there's so many variables that are unknown.
Yeah.
And that's why we plan for as much as we can. But also, part of that plan is knowing that there's going to be things that we don't know about that are going to happen.
Sure.
And so we need to be prepared for those as well. And really, I speak for myself, and I know John has a little bit of fun with it, but as these things come up and we see the plans that we put together and how they are either greatly impacted or not impacted as much based on that planning that we've done, it's really fun to see, okay, we put a plan together not knowing this event was going to take place, and the plan stood tall and it did what it was supposed to do.
I love that.
And that's where we want to evaluate that stuff ongoing to make sure we have those keys in place.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much. John, I know that you and Chris have a special offer to present to the viewers at home. Let's talk about what that is before we go to the phones.
Sure. Whether you're sitting at home and you're concerned about the volatility in the market today, maybe you have a plan, maybe you have one that you haven't evaluated in a while, or maybe you don't have a plan at all. Give us a call at 844-333-6059. For the first 10 callers, we'll put together our Clearpath Retirement Guide. Let's dive in. Let's see what fees you're paying inside those mutual funds. Let's see what level of risk you're taking. Is that interest rate sensitivity something that we need to be concerned about, and how much do we have inside our portfolio? The Clearpath Retirement Guide will answer all of those questions. The number to call tonight, again, is 844-333-6059. Give us a call today.
John, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 844-333-6059. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. I have so much more with Jon and Chris when we return. Stay tuned.
At Open Air Advisors, we are passionate about making sure our clients live stress-free in retirement. When meeting with new clients, our biggest fear is whether it's too late to fix other advisors' mistakes. When you're nearing retirement, it's essential that you have a written plan and know exactly how that plan will work for you in retirement. Many consumers place loyalty to their current advisors over the retirement success. Always get a second opinion. For a complimentary review, contact us today.
We are frequently asked where we think tax rates are headed. Most experts agree tax rates will eventually have to go up as our federal debt increases. Without any changes, the government's current plan is set to expire in 2025. Every penny counts, especially in retirement. Is your current plan efficient and optimized to reduce your tax obligations? Contact us today at Open Air Advisors for a complimentary review.
And welcome back to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by John Lawton and Chris Massenberg of Open Air Advisors. Gentlemen, a wonderful show that we're having today, again, talking about such an important topic, proper planning for retirement. So we do have a viewer question that came in, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit about it. John, I'm going to guide it to you. It says, John, can you explain what exactly is rebalancing a portfolio, and is it necessary?
Great question. Is rebalancing necessary? Yes, it is necessary. And that's one of the things, especially when we see the do-it-yourselfers, that's one area where we see that falling behind, that consistent rebalancing. It's important to rebalance it consistently, but I would say that here's what I see a lot of the times, and we'll go back to the big box bank because we see that really often where they're rebalancing their portfolios quarterly. So there is a date on the calendar, and that's the date that we rebalance the portfolio. Going back, what is rebalancing? If we're taking that portfolio that we've talked about before, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Well, last year stocks did way better than our bonds did. In fact, our stocks made double-digit returns. Our bonds lost about 2%, and so just on average. So what we were doing during that year, every time you rebalanced, you sold some of the stocks that did really well, and you bought some of the bonds that did more poorly. Well, there's some strategies here that come into play. A year like last year where there's really good sentiment on the market, do we let things run? I'm be the first to tell you, just because it is October 1st does not mean that I'm going to rebalance a portfolio. At the same time, when we see this volatility in the market like we're seeing today, that might be a time that we are rebalancing the portfolio. We want to be opportunistic as we are rebalancing the portfolio, taking advantage of the market environment to wring every nickel out of the market for our clients. And so that's what we do. It's not a calendar-based thing. It is vitally, vitally, vitally important. Unfortunately, what we see with a lot of the clients that come in is a correlated portfolio. And what that means is if you were looking at your portfolio last year and everything went up, guess what? This year, everything's probably, beginning of the year, has probably gone down. And so when we develop a fully designed portfolio, what we're looking for are things that are non-correlated assets. So things that when this one goes up, this one goes down, or they work in different ways. And the way I like to think about it is kind of like a farmer who plants different crops. And each one of them is being harvested at different times to be able to create, for most of our clients, I would say for our firm, about 75% of our clients are taking an income from the portfolio. Okay. So they've successfully retired and now they're in that income distribution phase. When we build the portfolio, we're looking for things that are coming up at different times. Right? We've got the corn or the potato, whatever it is. Yeah. But we're harvesting those things at different times because if all we were doing was growing corn, it'd be really great for about 4 months. And what would we do for the rest of what would we eat for the rest of the year, right?
Right.
So that's the way we look at it, rebalancing that portfolio, designing a portfolio that has all of the components that you need, the asset classes that you need. Unfortunately, again, what we see is when we do our deep dive into the portfolio, and again, that part of that Clearpath retirement guide is doing I call it portfolio deconstruction, but a deep dive into the portfolio.
Sure.
And what you see 9 times out of 10 is everyone's correlated to the S&P 500. You've done great. Maybe you've bought 10 mutual funds. Maybe you've bought 20 mutual funds. I've seen portfolios with 60 mutual funds or 100.
Yeah.
But they're all correlated to the S&P 500. You could do a lot less and get a lot more with an institutionally managed, professionally rebalanced portfolio.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jon. Excellent answer to that question. Well, gentlemen, we only have about 30 seconds left of the show today. I can't believe how fast the time goes by. Thank you for another amazing episode this week. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 844-333-6059. If you have questions about how to plan your perfect retirement, don't miss the opportunity to call in and take advantage of the complimentary consultation today. Again, 844-333-6059. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we will see you back here 1 week from today. Thanks for watching.